We're living in a sex-crazed society. You're constantly bombarded by music, magazines, fashion. What is the message? Be sexy, wild, and just do it. Everyone's into it, right? Why wait? And yet, our country is facing a devastating HIV epidemic. And sexually transmitted infections are sweeping through our youth like wildfire. Despite all efforts to promote condoms and safer sex, young people still daily face the shattering news that they're HIV positive. Where are we falling short? For answers, we turn to Dr. Albie van Eerden, who's been talking to hundreds of thousands of young people across the country about AIDS and sex since the beginning of the epidemic.
Young people, you are on your own. When I was your age, to a large extent, abortion was against the law. Pornography was illegal. And so these laws protected us. And these laws have been taken away. And if you don't stand on your own feet, and you make up your mind what you want in life and what you don't want in life, what lifestyle you're going to live and what lifestyle you're not going to live, nobody's going to do it for you.
The bottom line is, you will have to make a decision. This will not be your conventional education session. You'll be seeing images that have been limited to doctors and hospitals for a long time. So join me for the next half hour that'll open your eyes. Every day we make contact with many germs, and our body's resistance, our immune system, fights them off. Your immune system is made up of white blood cells that move through the body, finding and destroying germs that can make you sick. There is one virus, though, that does not attack your body, but targets your immune system. HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus. There is no cure for this virus. It kills without exception. And all it takes is one sexual encounter to contract HIV.
The line here shows you what's happening to the immune system of a person after he's infected with HIV. When the line is straight, he is infected, he is a carrier, and he spreads the disease. But he's not sick. When the graph makes a dip, it means that the person is experiencing an episode of sickness. So you see, there are large periods when a person who is infected with the AIDS virus is actually healthy. He's not sick. This is the point of infection. It takes a short while before he gets sick for the first time, and that is anything between 8 and 12 weeks. We call it the window period. Then this person has the first episode of sickness. What is the sickness like? Well, it's basically like a major flu. Most people don't even realize it's the beginning of AIDS. After this episode, for a long period, the person can be symptom-free. This time can be anything from 6 months up to 15 years. Now, I'm not going to show you pictures of people at this stage of the disease because you can't see anything. They're healthy, they look like you and me.
During this time, not only does a person pass the virus to people he sleeps with, but it continues to break down the immune system until he's open to any disease he comes into contact with. These are sicknesses anybody gets, but because this person's immune system is down, they happen much more often and are much more severe. This stage is called AIDS, and certain diseases occur so often in AIDS patients that they're called AIDS-defining conditions. An early symptom of HIV is swollen glands. As the virus moves through your bloodstream, the glands in your neck, armpits and groin filter them out. The concentration of viruses in the glands causes them to be inflamed and swollen.
Here you see a girl with swollen glands. You can see 2 swollen glands in the neck. This guy, I think he was about 10 years old. This gland is red. That means it's septic. It's going to burst open and become an open sore. There you can see it. The medicines didn't help. He was simply too weak from the AIDS. This is an innocent child. He did nothing wrong. He's suffering because of the life his mother has lived.
You may recover from an episode of swollen glands, but with a damaged immune system, your body will simply give in to the next infection. Shingles attacks the nerves, always on one half of the body. The infection causes the nerve ends to be inflamed, forming blisters. The blisters break, they become open sores, they form crusts, and then they heal. On the face, it can spread into the ears, mouth, and even the throat.
If people are HIV positive, they don't stop sleeping around. They think they've got nothing to lose. They are already infected, so they might just as well enjoy life. They don't realize that if they get a new infection, then it doubles the speed with which the disease progresses. If you want to catch a certain kind of a fish, you use a certain kind of a bait. If you want to attract a certain kind of a man, you must dress in a certain kind of a way. And you might be looking for a goldfish, and you'll end up catching a barber with his moustache tentacles sticking out of his mouth. And that's the kind of fish you are going to catch, because that's the kind of bait you are putting out. If you want a guy that loves you because of your character and your whole personality, then don't put all the focus on your body, please. And some girls are like that. They are so impressed with this body of theirs, they go around displaying it wherever they go. And in the end, they are attracting boys which are going to bring them death. Can I tell you a secret? If you don't know it, let me tell it to you straight. Listen, there's nobody who can lie like a young man who wants to sleep with you. He'll promise you heaven on earth. He's going to buy you a house and I don't know what all. Meanwhile, he doesn't even have enough money to buy himself a pair of underpants.
For over a century, Kaposi's sarcoma was a rare and strange condition. But with the outbreak of AIDS, it has become a widespread cancer. The first symptom is dark, purplish lesions. These continue to grow and spread, infiltrating the body.
This girl lived for about 3 months after this picture was taken.
The cancer reaches a stage where it begins to grow outwards.
This chap doesn't look so bad. You just see the small sores next to the nose. But if you ask him to open his mouth, this is what you see. This is the right hand and the left hand of the same person. Now, you might ask me, yeah, but can't you just chop the hand off? Yes, you can amputate, but remember, it's in his system. It will just come out somewhere else in his body. In case you think that AIDS is restricted to one race, let me tell you that you're living in a dream. AIDS is affecting all races in South Africa. Forget about this chap's spots. Just look at his face. You see the fear. You see the hopelessness. And he knows there's no doctor standing between him and death. I know what is your biggest fear. Must I tell you? Your biggest fear is the fear of being unpopular and lonely. A teenager is so afraid of being unpopular that you'll become part of a group that you don't really belong to. You'll go with them, you'll drink and you'll smoke pot, and you'll go out of your mind, and you'll take the risk of sleeping with a girl and getting AIDS and dying, killing yourself, just so that you're popular.
90% of all HIV patients will develop an oral infection.
Thrush is well known amongst newborn babies. If you get a grown-up person or a teenager with thrush, you can virtually be sure he's got AIDS, unless he's had treatment for cancer. You see the white hair growing on the side of the tongue. This is called white hairy leukoplakia. It's another sign of AIDS.
Weight loss is very common in the last stages of AIDS because of oral infections, diarrhea, and constant illness.
There was one young man I knew, his body, was a symbol of health. But the virus came in. The day I saw him on his deathbed, it was sad. He was reduced into skeleton and bones. I was frightened. I couldn't believe that, that physique just melted within a few months into that state.
This woman was the mother of 4 children. The day when she died, 4 children were left behind as orphans. She was the one that fed them. She was the one that clothed them. The real tragedy is not the physical source that I've shown you. This is the worst tragedy. Our families are falling apart. The other day I heard of a young girl, 12 years old, both parents dead from AIDS. An uncle of 35 years old come to stay with her and her 2 brothers. How does he care for her? He makes her pregnant. Girls, I weep for you. I weep for you. I want to tell you the story of a woman. The husband was working in Durban. I think she had 6 children. One day, the husband came back from work, and he had sores all over here, and he wanted to sleep with her. And she said to him, hang on, you go to the doctor first. So she persisted. He went to the doctor. The doctor looked at him. Now, very often a person gets AIDS, and then he continues to sleep around, and he gets another disease on top of the AIDS, syphilis, another venereal disease. He goes to the doctor. He shows the doctor the syphilis. The doctor looks. He says, yes, that's syphilis. He gives him treatment. The syphilis disappears, but the AIDS carries on because AIDS can't be healed. He was back the next week, and he said to his wife, all right, are you happy now? She looked at him. There were no sores anymore. And unfortunately for her, she went to bed with him. He went back to Durban. For about 3 months, she heard nothing of him. No money. He didn't write a letter. He didn't phone her. She was a simple woman. She didn't go to school. She realized, listen, I've got to go and look for my husband. She gets onto a bus. She gets lost. They mug her. They nearly steal all her money from her. Finally, 5 o'clock the afternoon, she gets the husband in a room, lying in bed. He's as thin as a rake and he's wet with perspiration. She says to him, look, you can't live like that. Let me take you home and care for you. He didn't send her money. At home, she's got a few chickens. She made money by selling her chickens, and she's using that money to take this man back home, to care for him. She sees that she doesn't manage. In the end, she takes him to the hospital. He stays there for 3 weeks. She gets a message, your husband is dead, come and fetch him. She's left all alone in the world with 6 kids. Young people, I don't know whether you've ever felt lonely, but I tell you, that's loneliness. She goes to the hospital, she gets there. The nurse says to her, here's a letter from your husband. He was too weak to write. He asked me to write for him. My dear wife, just to say again, I loved you till the end. I am sorry I didn't tell you from the beginning, but I had AIDS. This man who lived like a pig thinks by just saying I am sorry, he puts everything straight. She gets a terrible fright. She goes to the doctor. She says, doctor, I've just heard my husband died from AIDS. Can you test me? The doctor tests her. She's HIV positive. Do you know what's going to happen? Within a short while, 6 children are going to be orphans. We see young girls of 12 years old selling their bodies to men of 60 years old to get money to buy food to eat because both parents died from AIDS. And I tell you, that man is going to stand before God one day. And God is going to say, you've got blood on your hands. And he's going to say, well, Lord, no, I didn't kill anybody.
And God will say, you killed your own wife and you made a prostitute of your own daughter.
It is undeniable that the AIDS pandemic is a result of casual sex. Diseases are linked to a lifestyle, and because HIV is usually contracted through sex, it is called a sexually transmitted infection. However, it is only one of over 50 STIs associated to the casual sex lifestyle. So let us take a closer look into the consequences of this lifestyle and just some of the more common sexually transmitted infections. The chlamydia bacterium inflames the tubes in the reproductive system. This is a womb infected with this STI.
Those are adhesions. They close the tubes. They're also inside the tube so that the opening of the tube is closed. So the egg cell can't get to the sperm and she can't have children. She can have an operation, it will cost her about 16,000 Rand. 2/3 of the operations are unsuccessful. Here you see the mouth of the womb of a healthy girl. It's clean, there are no sores. And here you see the mouth of the womb of a girl with chlamydia. You can see there is pus and the whole opening of the womb is raw.
Life is not an event. Life is a series of choices which people have made. Everything is a result of something which you did yesterday.
A friend of mine is a medical doctor and he spoke at one school. And after the talk, a girl walked up to him. She had legs that stretched from here to Cape Town and a dress that was sitting here. And she said to him, I just want to say I'm glad that you've taught these kids these things. He says, oh, thank you very much. What did you think of the talk? She said, oh, me? No, I and my boyfriend, we practice safe sex, thanks. And she turned around and out she went. That evening, my friend was on duty in the casualty department of the local hospital. And guess who walks into the hospital 10 o'clock that night? Miss Legs. And when he tested her, she had 3 sexually transmitted diseases with her boyfriend and safe sex and all. Usually you get more than one of these diseases in a person because it comes from a lifestyle. This chap sleeps around, so from this girl he gets AIDS, from that girl he gets syphilis, from that girl he gets gonorrhea.
This sexually transmitted infection is also caused by a bacterium, which infests the lining of the tubes in the genital organs. The tubes become inflamed and begin to ooze pus.
Here you see a guy with a gonorrhea abscess. If you don't cut that abscess and you don't drain it, the pus will form a channel for itself. It will start drilling a hole and he'll get a fistula, we call it in medical terms. It's an opening that continuously oozes pus. And the only way to treat it is to put a piece of wire through that channel and cut everything out. We, as doctors, know what you're busy with. I don't know whether your mummy or your daddy know what you're busy with. But once you're addicted to drugs, or once you've made a girl pregnant, or once you've picked up a sexually transmitted disease, and you break out in septic sores in the genital area, then you run to us.
And what's worse is when the doctor pronounces the words, there's nothing we can do about it.
Once you're infected with genital herpes, you have it for life. It is incurable. The herpes virus attacks the nerves in the genital organs, causing blisters.
The blisters break and then they become open sores. These sores are extremely painful. This is a man who had AIDS underlying and then he got herpes on top of the AIDS. So you see, it's much worse when you have AIDS. Here you see a child with herpes in the face. Now maybe you think, hey, come on, how does he get herpes, a sexually transmitted disease in his face? During the birth process, as his face came through the birth canal, his mother, so to say, injected him. She had sores on the genital area that touched his face. It is not a joke to look at your child every day and to know, I have done this to my child. This baby lived 6 months. He was born without a future.
Syphilis is a corkscrew bacterium that attacks and destroys the organs of the body.
You see the lesion on the lip? These sores are usually not painful. This we call primary syphilis. The sore will go away by itself without treatment. But the disease is not out of his system. He's still infected, he carries the disease, and he can continue to infect girls with whom he sleeps. And then after 12 months, the sores will come back again, and then we call it secondary syphilis. These sores are literally riddled with hundreds or thousands of syphilis germs. If this guy kisses a girl with his tongue in her mouth, he can give her syphilis by kissing her. She's not going to come to you and say to you, you see, I've got sores in my mouth. I'm going to kiss you with sores in my mouth. Secondary syphilis is not always in the tongue. It can be on the genital organs as well. And this is the end. This is a beautiful young girl of 21 years old. Do you understand me, girls? She had a future, a bright future. She's lying on a bed, and this is her grave. She got sores in the genital part, but because she had AIDS, she had no resistance, and it just spread like wildfire. One of the schools I spoke, a guy stood up at the back and he said, yeah, you tell us these things, but they say practice makes perfect. He says, if I can't practice to have sex, how will I know how to have sex when I'm grown up? I said to him, look, you don't have to practice to have sex, it's in your blood. Believe me. You know what you must practice? Practice to control yourself. You know, self-control, young people, is the missing word in our vocabulary.
Nobody talks about self-control. Everybody talks about doing things your way. People steal, people kill others, people abuse because of what? Lack of self-control. I do whatever I want when I think I need it.
We forget that our whole life is full of self-control. If you sit in a hall and a doctor is speaking and he's talking about AIDS and he's talking so long that you can't get to the toilet and you need to go to the toilet, then you exercise self-control. So we accept self-control in many areas of life, but somehow when it comes to sex, we think it's impossible.
Sexual feelings, they are not reflexes. They're desires which you can simply control. We are not animals who are supposed to act on instinct, but we are human beings who have got a rational mind for you to think that, yes, my feelings are saying this, but what is the truth? What are the repercussions of all this?
So what I'm saying to you is, guys, don't sleep around. You don't have to. I was 30 years old when I got married, and I didn't sleep with a single girl before I got married. And I wasn't like a weak little guy, you know, like an old rusted car that had to be panel beated first and oiled. The day when I got married, it worked perfectly. This is my challenge for you.
HPV attacks the skin cells of the genital area, damaging the cell's genetic material, making it cancerous and extremely infectious.
It's one of the most common sexually transmitted diseases. It affects up to 46% of sexually active teenagers. It causes venereal warts, genital cancer, and painful intercourse later in life. You can't even see this is a woman. This is one big cauliflower of a wart. And because she had AIDS underlying, the HPV is much more serious. The treatment for this is to burn it with laser. Then it looks like this. It's very painful though. Please, please don't put your trust in condoms. Medical science shows that condoms fail in 15 to 20% of the cases when people use them to prevent AIDS. If you do skydiving and they tell you that 1 out of 6 parachutes don't open, are you going to jump? Sex with a condom is dangerous sex. That's it.
There was one young man I knew. He looked at me and said, "But doctor, I was condomizing. What happened? Why didn't somebody tell me the truth?"
This guy slept with a girl and he used a condom. And in spite of using the condom, he picked up the disease. This girl slept with a guy who used a condom. And in spite of using the condom, he gave her a little present. You see, this is a game of surprises and presents. Nobody knows what's in the lucky packet and what's going to come out there. And young people, this is the truth. And I want to leave it with you so that when you make your decisions, you alone are blamed for the choices you are going to make. I don't know whether you've ever seen these videos about the Serengeti, of these huge herds of blue wildebeest who trek once a year from Kenya down to Tanzania. Now, somehow nature works like that the cows calf while they're on the move. And then you see them standing in a circle around this cow. And you see her giving birth and this cow falling onto the ground, still covered in its membranes. This calf is struggling to get on his feet. And the rest of the herd is just standing there watching this calf. They're not moving a finger to help it. Within half an hour, that calf must be on his feet and he must be ready to move with the herd. And behind them, you see the jackal and the hyena waiting, because they know if the herd starts moving and this calf cannot walk and he cannot stand on his legs, they're going to get food. This is typical of the situation you are in. When I was your age, to a large extent, abortion was against the law. Pornography was illegal. And so these laws protected us. And these laws have been taken away if you don't make a decision for yourself. And if you don't stand on your own feet and stand for what's right and reject what's wrong and decide what lifestyle you're going to live and what lifestyle you're not going to live, nobody's going to do it for you. And you are going to be the victims of the jackals and the hyenas of our society. I'm also here for those who have lost their virginity, because it's not too late. Maybe you can turn around today and say, well, I've made the mistake, but I'm learning from my mistake. From today, I'm stopping with it. And if you stop today, you save your life. Stand up. Be man enough to stand up. I did it. You can do it as well. You don't have to be embarrassed or ashamed. Make it clear what you stand for. You'll never be sorry about it. I guarantee you. Thank you.
The facts have been laid before you, and you've seen the consequences of casual sex. There is no cure for HIV. STIs are just as horrifying. It simply is not worth it. Understanding the risks and dangers, you are now able to decide, what lifestyle are you gonna choose? I encourage you to choose abstinence until marriage, because I believe it's the only way you'll never put yourself at risk.